Thank you very much for your cooperation. So you'll be given, the questioners will be given 90 seconds to pose your question. Some folks have already lined up, and if you're going to line up, we ask that you do so out the door so that people behind you can see. So we're wanting to be fair, so we're going to use the same system. For the questioners, when you have 30 seconds left, you will receive the yellow sign, and then you will receive the red sign when it's time to stop and the mic will be turned off. No trapdoor, no. That was a question. When you come to the mic, we ask that you state your name first, please. State the name of the candidate you wish to speak, and then pose your questions. Again, we'll ask everyone to hold our applause until the end, please. Very good. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Ray Zimmerman. I'm the director of CDC Greenbelt Society. We have supporters in Esquimalt. My question is to Art Taylor, and it's regarding the regional sustainability strategy. I would also like to commend, firstly, the Council on its decision on sewage. It demonstrates very clearly how much you can influence regional decisions when necessary. The regional sustainability strategy is going to be the document on which we base how we will live here in the future in the region. The present strategy, if you look at the maps, the agricultural land reserve does not exist, which demonstrates the importance of ecological matters that the regional sustainability strategy puts on ecological matters. Without an agricultural land reserve, I can't imagine how you would call it the regional sustainability strategy. It's not on the maps. So my question to you is, how can we ensure that the sustainability is defined as on ecological basis, and that the agricultural land reserve is primary in that strategy? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you for that question, Ray. The regional growth strategy is currently being morphed into the regional sustainability strategy. And as Ray has pointed out, there are still some big holes in it. It is now in the process where it will be moving out into communities. And so after this election, new councils will be reviewing it. Communities will be reviewing it. I've ensured at the table that we will have public hearings on it so that situations like you pointed out don't occur. We cannot have big holes in this strategy. This strategy going forward is very, very important. But it's important that we can all live by the rules of it. It's what's going to keep us, our communities compact. It is going to help us environmentally and to be sustainable. If we can't all agree, we will continue to have tall buildings going out into Colwood or Soup or beyond, and we will continue to have sprawl, and we will lose agricultural land. So we have to pull this together. And the great challenge is that there are 13 municipalities that all need economic development. They all need to have all those things that make a community viable. And so we have to come together on this. We did it for the growth strategy. We can do it for the sustainability strategy. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jane Devonshire. This question is for Mayor Mark Desjardins. If elected as the Mayor of Esquimalt, what would you do proactively to protect our precious and beautiful Esquimalt coastline from the immense expansion of tanker traffic that would ensue from Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain pipeline? Tanker traffic would increase from 80 tankers a year to over 444, a 5-fold increase, and some other sources make it as high as a 7-fold increase. Even Transport Canada declared that southern Vancouver Island would be at high risk for an oil spill.
Thank you. not just something that Esquimalt can deal with. This is something that we as coastal communities, we as British Columbians have to deal with. And so the first step is for communities like ours to take a strong stand like we have. And then taking that stand through Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities, and moving that on up to Union British Columbia municipalities through resolutions. That way we have the strength of all communities in the province. That sends a huge statement. From there, we also have the opportunity to carry it through to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. We are the only province that has 100% of our municipalities that are members through UBCM, FCM. And I hope all those acronyms don't carry you away. But basically it says, we got a huge, strong voice, and we must be a part of this process. We have to make some changes. We have to move away from fossil fuels. But we have to have policies in government that help make people change. Right now, the policies aren't there that encourage all of you to go out and buy an electric car to make a change. The policies aren't in place so that anyone who owns a fiberglass boat can take it away and get it recycled. You know, the policies aren't there. We have to encourage government levels to do that. Thank you.
My name is Francois Brassard, and my question is for John Decker. And it's the same question Jane just raised, but I'll repeat it again. If elected as the mayor of Esquimalt, what would you do proactively to protect our precious and beautiful Esquimalt coastline from the immense expansion of tanker traffic that would ensue from Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain pipeline? Tanker traffic would increase from 80 tankers a year to over 444. Five-fold increase. Other sources make it even higher, estimate of seven-fold. Even Transport Canada declared that southern Vancouver Island would be at high risk for an oil spill. What would you do?
Thank you for that. I agree with the propositions that have been put forward here in terms of the initiatives to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Union of BC Municipalities. Where I would go a little differently on this is to make sure that our response system to natural disaster or to ecological disasters in the marine sector is handled comprehensively, and that comes in terms of local disaster response, making sure that we have effective partnerships with the military, with the province, make sure that our local emergency services providers are trained in first response and incident command. In the current incident command system, there really is nothing in terms of protocol to deal with spills of a maritime nature, and we have to be robust in training those people to get there, inventorying the kinds of systems we already have in place through places like C-SPAN and the military, and make sure that we understand what resources are available, because we will be the front line when something happens. And it doesn't have to be an oil tanker. We saw the Russian container ship off of Haida Gwaii. Not oil, but still 500 tons of fuel, and we have to be concerned about that. Now, I think our system worked in that case, but not well enough, and we have to make these local protocols come together to protect us in the interim.
So for folks who have a question, if you could actually snake the line out through there, then that keeps it visibility for the folks that are sitting there. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Kyle, and my question is for Beth Burton-Cron. And my question is, where do you propose to put the high-density development that you thought would be a good idea for Esquimalt? And how high would you want those buildings to be?
Okay, thanks for the question. So currently right now, the Esquimalt Village project under the OCP can go as high as 12 stories, as well as the Legion development. That's kind of hung up right now in the process, but it's in the core area of the downtown or along Esquimalt Road. There's some walk-ups right now. What I'd love to see happen is what's called a development permit area, where a whole area is, a vision for it is created collectively. So it's not spot zoning where it's just a one-off, it's a whole collective vision for an area. I think my question or my challenge to us, myself included, is if we are really serious about tackling climate change, we've got to look at density, because we need to get people out of their cars. That's really the key issue, is to choke off growth out in the West Shore and drive it back into the urban core. We are almost a complete community here, very walkable. All of our amenities are close by, and I just, everything boils back down to this land use policy in terms of dealing with climate change from my perspective. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Norma Brown. My question is for Mr. Drucker. I would like to know exactly where you stand on secondary versus tertiary sewage treatment.
Thank you. I'm not an engineer, and I don't feel I'm qualified to make a definitive opinion in terms of the engineering aspects of secondary, advanced secondary, or tertiary treatment. But what I can commit to do is to listen to the best possible science that our engineers bring to us as we move forward away from McLaughlin Point, and to absolutely work as best I can for the taxpayer of Esquimalt, factoring in cost, which will be considerable no matter which way we go, and make sure that no matter what happens, we get the best deal for the Esquimalt taxpayer in the best location that we can do.
In response to that, can I just further it out since he couldn't answer?
Sorry.
Can I line up again?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Eric Pittman, and I have a question for John Decker. The first meeting of the West Side Wastewater Resource Recovery Center Select Committee took place on October 23rd, 2014. At this meeting, Director Barb Desjardins and Director Carol Hamilton were elected as co-chairs, and the terms of reference for the West Side Select Committee were reviewed. We know how hard Barb and the council members fought for Esquimalt when the CRD tried to shoehorn in their giant wastewater plant at McLaughlin Point. I would like to know how many council meetings you attended, how many public forums you attended, what you did to oppose the site. Do you have any records of letters that you sent to the editor? Did you speak up about it? And more importantly, if you're elected, Mayor Desjardins and council have begun the process of searching for the correct sewage solution for our community. And would you continue her work, or would you change the course?
Well, sir, essentially it's the same answer, in that I'm committed to get the best deal for the Esquimalt taxpayer. I'm not putting my eggs in any one basket in terms of west side, east side, central solution. I'm going to be open to all options, and I absolutely and firmly commit to consult the citizens of Esquimalt before we go forward with any solution. But my eye will always be on the bottom line, the most sustainable and the most tax efficient solution for our community.
And what opposition did you raise?
I have worked as a police officer and a senior police officer for many years, and advocacy and impartiality of the police I don't think mixed together, so I could not be a part of that discussion while I worked. When I retired, I took a year off and did a lot of traveling in the interim, so I was not present for a lot of these meetings. I owed my wife a long vacation away in Europe and through the United States, so I wasn't part of that, but I'm back now. And again, I will do the best thing that I can do for the Esquimalt taxpayer and won't be pushed over by any agenda in any direction.
So, sir, you did ask a number of questions, so I'm just going to ask you to get back in line again if you want to continue.
This question is for Josh Steffler. I come from Denmark. Denmark has a very green environment with government involvement and high taxes, etc. How come it is the happiest country in the world?
I guess happiness is subjective. Are we not the happiest community in the world? I would argue that Esquimalt is much happier than Denmark, and so Denmark is happier than the people of Esquimalt. I walk down the road and I see the smiles on children's faces. I go to my kids' school and see everybody happy and playing. They look like they're very, very happy, and I guess that's the answer. I don't believe that Denmark's happier than Esquimalt.
No, just time goal.
Mine is a selfish question. A
Your name, please.
Sorry.
Your name?
Oh, my name is Peter Summers. My name is, my question is a selfish question. It is not an environmental question, and therefore I'm directing it to Susan Brown.
So, sir, the parameters of our event tonight are that it's an environmental question.
Others forbid.
Pardon me?
Other questions?
There's a November 4th event that we would invite folks to go to. If we get it to 9 o'clock and we have gone through all of the, or before 9 o'clock, and we've gone through all of the environmental questions, then I would invite you to come forward. But if you would hold your question, if it's not an environmental question, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last question. The last question was an environmental question. Sure it wasn't. It wasn't. We're happy people in Denmark.
That's true. My apologies to you.
My name is Sylvia Hammond, and I'm addressing my question to Lyndall Handleby. It is regarding the Esquimalt Legion project. What effect will the building of that project and that project being brought forward have on the environment in Esquimalt? And what is the status of the Esquimalt Legion building project?
Thank you for the question. So the Esquimalt Legion had quite the process and did come to council and was approved to go forward, and the final approval was dependent on the Legion providing a certain documentation, and as far as I know that hasn't come forward and it didn't come back to council. It has been approved. So in terms of the impact on the environment, certainly because it's a 11-story building, 12-story building, and it is made of concrete, there will be certain greenhouse gas emissions from that compared to if it was a 6-story wooden building. So that would make a significant difference. However, it allows for a higher density and allows for more people to be housed in that building. It has windows on the bottom. It has a place for some business operations on the bottom. And to me, it looked very nice. There was opportunities to provide a bus stop outside, and the Legion developer and the council, the staff, worked to provide a nice landscape so that it would be inviting and also allow the opportunity for a drive-in so that seniors who live there could be dropped off. and they would be, and it's a thoroughly walkable community. So, there's certainly pros and cons to having both, but, I think that there's some definite advantages for people who would be able to live there. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brad Rhodes, and I have a question for Josh Stetzler, if you don't mind. First of all, are you an environmentalist? And it seems that you're against any sort of a government dictatorship or impositions from government to a great extent. So how is it that we can protect our environment?
Well, I think we're all really environmentalists. Everybody pretty much recycles. They take care of their neighborhood, their property. And so I also think that with a strong focus on property rights, where you are able to protect your property and a respect for these property rights, that we can work to protect our environment. Nobody has the right to pollute your property, your air, your water. And so I think that we can, as adults, deal with these things individually, talking to people and working through voluntary associations, voluntary like independent arbiters and mediators, rather than by coercive force and acting like children tattling on each other and running to mommy and daddy government to punish our neighbor, that we can work collaboratively and collectively to protect our own environment, because nobody wants to soil their own backyard or their neighbor's backyard or even their community's backyard. So working together, I think we can very easily protect the environment by protecting our individual property rights. Thank you.
Please hold your applause. Thank you for holding your applause.
Hi, Mr. Drucker. In response to your first answer, I'm looking for a little more clarity. So, in addition to listening to project engineers regarding secondary and tertiary sewage treatment, I'm wondering how you, if you were elected as the decision maker for this area, would come up to speed to make that decision.
And thank you for coming back for your such a quick question.
Well, I mean, the information is provided by staff, and it is discussed at a table where concepts are put back and forth, and it is analyzed to the best capacity that people have who don't have that background, such as me, to make decisions. And once it's explained, and the tax implications of changes and the potential extra cost of tertiary treatment over secondary, and where the sites are going to be located for tertiary, and how we're going to move all the sludge from various tertiary sites is all put in there. Then we sit down and work as a group and try and analyze for the best decision of taxpayers. But in the abstract, to say, what is better here or what is better there tonight, I don't have enough background in terms of understanding the engineering. I mean, I'm trying to learn a lot of this as I go along, and I think I have learned a lot, but it is a cumulative decision based on many factors. And really, without having the specific knowledge and input, cost-benefit analysis of A versus B, it's very difficult to just push a button and say, here's your answer.
Mr. Duffy, you don't have to sit down again. Hi, Constance. Bookmarovich, Victoria. I'm deeply concerned regarding our deer issues all across our jurisdictions. And just so anybody cares to know, I'm NFA due to a deer being killed outside my door, and a lack of respect shown, both human and nature-wise. And so I refuse to live around this type of mentality. Can you please tell me what you would suggest as a humane and kind approach to dealing with the deer?
And so I believe that the best way to look at the deer problem is comprehensive, and that involves a process of education, a process of landscape and barrier management, and then when we get to the extreme part of the equation, that culls, as done as humanely as possible, may occasionally be necessary. Culls should not be the first choice. We should exhaust the other factors that can be used in deer management, such as the types of gardening you're using and the proper type of barriers before we get to culls. But really, they're based on the research that I have been able to do, there is no one answer, there is no one effective approach to this. It's a comprehensive process which starts with education in the community about what things we can do to prevent deer incursions.
Thank you for that.
My name is Gordon Moore, and my question is for Oliver Leaderchuk. I'm a member of a lobby, climate change lobbying group, and often we talk about carbon tax versus carbon credit, kind of European systems they're using to functionally affect businesses. I was wondering if you have any opinions on either of those systems or any thoughts that you'd like to share.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, one thing that was decided recently in the Environmental Advisory Committee is to put the tax money back into the community instead of having like a carbon tax, for example. So making sure that that money will go into projects that are going directly into projects that are built in the community. So I think that's certainly something that I would prefer to see is having that money going back into our community. Thanks.
My name is Carol Smith, and I have a hard time figuring out who I should ask this question to. So I think I'll ask it to Barb. I live in an apartment, and we have paper recycling, and we have plastic and metal recycling, but we don't have compost. And I believe that some of the reason of that is that the waste removal is done by private companies. And I would like to know if it's going to be possible to get composting for apartment dwellers.
Thank you. We're certainly on the first stage of composting. We are doing collection at single-family homes, and the next stage would be to look at multifamily dwellings and figure out how we can do that process. I know that it's successfully done in Vancouver in many buildings. What we felt is that we didn't want to bite off too much to begin with, and so work through the bugs of the first level and then hopefully roll out into multi-family dwellings. And I think just learning from others. This is not a wheel that we have to recreate. It's being done in other places. The difficulty some buildings have is that they are already contracted to private services. That being said, I live down in the marina, and we basically are like a multi-family building, and we do composting, and it's picked up by service every week, and we do recycling as well. So it can be done, and it's hopeful that that will roll out in the next term. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rita Frumwell. My question is for Susan Lowe. She hasn't been asked the question yet. Since it's looking like the federal government is hell-bent on approving these big pipeline projects, including Enbridge and Kinder Morgan, which would result in the increased tanker traffic along the coast, right past our island here. Assuming those are approved and the province also gives approval, what do you think a small municipality like Esquimalt can actually do at that point? And how can we work with other communities along the coast that are also very concerned about that?
Hi Rita, thanks very much for asking this question. And I think it refers to something that we haven't really talked a lot about here tonight, which is the need for our community to partner with First Nations, the original stewards of our land, and people who truly understand what it is to live with little to no impact on the land. So as a coastal community, even if the federal and provincial governments give the administrative go-ahead to these pipeline projects, I believe that our municipality should stand with other communities and with First Nations in legal challenges to those approvals. And I think that recent Supreme Court decisions about the Chilcotin people have established a precedent that we can rely upon to go forward and continue to challenge those pipelines so that not in our lifetime and not in our children's lifetime will diluted bitumen flow through our pristine valleys. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Daryl Hatchell. My question is for Scott Hatchell. One shocker. What's your opinion, flat out, on the sewage treatment? Is it necessary? Is it not? How do you feel about it?
First off, give my son a hand because I didn't bring a plug and plants. Thanks, Daryl. We've had some very, very intelligent people deal with this question. Dr. Keith Martin 9 years ago said it was $1 billion boondoggle. David Anderson has said it's not required. Rebecca Warburton at the University of Victoria has said it's not required. I have documents on my table. It's a 14, 15-page document that states specifically that the current system as it is now works just fine. The problem is we have an optics problem where people don't want to be with the sewage going into the ocean, but there is absolutely no contamination with the ocean. Now, if we talk about smaller items like microplastics and pharmaceuticals, they're at such a minor level that they don't even know if there's a measurable level for those types of toxins. The ocean does a great job for us, and if we bring it into the land, we bring it onto the land, it's going to create a larger carbon footprint. It's going to create the necessity to actually contain it, even if it's a what we call the water purification system or water recovery. It's still sewage treatment, and it should never be in the downtown core of any town. It should never be afforded in the downtown core where there's a daycare with 200 kids, where there's residents that have their homes there for a great number of years, and where the thriving community of Esquimalt goes. It shouldn't be there. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. My name is Eric Pittman. My question again is for John Ducker. Mr. Ducker, I've heard a lot of reasons why you have not been at council or why you have not participated in the community, but you surely must have thought about what you would have done. So, given the battle that raged in Esquimalt regarding the 2 sewage plants, do you think that you could have done a better job than Mayor Desjardins and the current council in keeping the oversized sewage plants out of our community? And what would you have done?
Well, I don't really know how to answer that. It's very theoretical. I mean, I don't feel that the plant should be at McLaughlin, and I support this council and their decision. But my approach to solving these types of problems is to try and look forward as much as possible. And now we have to realize where is this new site going to be? Where are the new sites going to be? How much extra costs are we going to incur? And how are we going to get the approvals from the various levels of other government to move these sites from the area that has already been pre-approved? So I don't really want to abstract the answer because I didn't have all the variables. I didn't have the benefit of many in-camera meetings that some of these other people have had. But we do need to look forward in this and try and figure out the way that benefits the taxpayer the most, provides the best sewage treatment service for the least cost.
Hi, my name is Greg Hill. I have a question for Josh Steffler. You've talked a lot about property rights and being a constitutional watchdog, and I know that the council looks at constitutional issues every time you create a bylaw, don't you? Some people, I think most people respect property rights and the protection of their individual property, some don't. But in terms of the indigenous people, what's your feeling in terms of the indigenous stewards of this land and their sovereignty and their protection of property rights? Why are property rights so important to you?
So if you could clarify for us, please, the environmental aspect of your question.
Well, property rights has to do with stewardship of everything from the seaways to sewage to polluting your neighbor's land.
Thank you.
Well, I definitely believe that the Native people have every right to be their own sovereign nation. I don't believe that our municipalities, our provincial or federal governments should be mandating them when they have their own property rights. They're able to mandate what happens on their land, they're able to protect their own environment, and if we actually afforded the natives their sovereign property rights, you wouldn't see these tankers flowing off their coasts. You wouldn't see these pipelines going through their land because it's their land. So they should be the deciders on their property, right? So I think that natives are definitely deserving of their property rights, and unfortunately, the bigger the government gets, the more it infringes upon their own sovereignty and their own property rights. So smaller government means better environmental stewardship from the Native people themselves. Thank you.
Victoria asked the same question of Barb Desjardins. What is your take on the deer issue and what would you propose? In my book, How You Treat Nature is How We Treat Each Other.
Thank you for the question. It's a complex one and it's a frustrating one, absolutely. CRD, in my mind, we haven't done a very good job at all. We started out with the idea of trying to come to some consensus about how to deal with deer. Deer don't have boundaries, and that's a big part of the problem. Some communities have made strides in how they're going to deal with deer. Education is a good place to start. Bylaws about feeding deer, those sorts of things. There are controls like heights of fences, those sorts of things. And some communities went a little further than others. The problem is there are holes. Saanich is doing nothing. City of Victoria is doing nothing. So for Oak Bay, for Esquimalt to deal with deer on their own, doesn't make a lot of sense. I know that the cull is something that Oak Bay is still trying to do. They've run into problems with the traps. I think it's a waste of money for us to continue to pour into that problem. I think we have to look at, again, go back to the drawing board in terms of how we're going to do this, do it properly, but it has to be done region-wide. I don't have a solution, but I don't see one municipality winning on this one. Thanks.
Hi there, my name is Noel Burton-Cron, and my question is for John Ducker. And John, I'm glad to hear that you oppose the CRD's proposal, or support the council in opposing the CRD's proposal for the sewage treatment plant on McLaughlin Point. But you've also said that you would like to choose the best solution, which has the best sort of tax implications and so on like this. So I'd like to ask you if you would commit to continuing to oppose the CRD's position of putting the sewage treatment plant on McLaughlin Point, seeing as this environmentally sensitive area, no matter what financial incentives the CRD offers.
In general terms, yes, is the answer to your question. What we also have to consider, however, is the potential effect of lawsuits from other municipalities and how far will we go to defend ourselves on that. Now I ask you as citizens, is that an all costs exercise? If the province orders it, are we going to take them into court, fight them through the Supreme Court of BC up to the Supreme Court of Canada and spend money on lawyers to do that? Is that an all costs exercise if it goes that way? I'm not sure that it is. You know, this thing should not be at all costs, and I think the only reasonable thing to do is to consider all options, as I am doing. Look forward to somebody offering up the land or the sites somewhere else and work with them to make the best possible solution. But one thing I strongly object to is spending tax money for governments to sue and fight other governments. So if we come to that, then we have some really difficult decisions to make on the issue.
Don't go on for Mr. Dunker, actually my question's for you. It's also on the sewage treatment, and based on the answers that I've been hearing this evening, I have...
Sorry, your name, please.
Oh, my apologies, Krishna Posey. I have grave concerns about how you would represent our municipality, as you stated, you know, if it goes to a lawsuit. I'm getting the implication that you would back down on the CRD, and we could still end up with McLaughlin. And I understand that you had to remain impartial while you were working, but on your own time, you also could have been spending the time getting up to speed on items that are of vital importance to our community. This, to me, I think, is one of the biggest ones we face right now. What would you do in terms of getting up to speed and standing up to the CRD? Because your answers right now reflect everything that's been said at the CRD board and everything Barb has fought against for the last couple of years.
Well, I don't think that's actually the case. I mean, I am saying that I support the Esquimalt Council's decision. I have said that we need to look for other options. As far as I'm concerned, McLaughlin is off the table. The philosophical question that I'm posing to you is that if it is forced onto us by either the federal or the provincial government, how much of your money can we spend to fight it in court? And is that an effective use of your tax money? And that's one thing that I say again that I object to is on certain issues, the fight maybe have to be had, but on certain other issues, then maybe this is the one that would you spend tens of millions of dollars in a lawsuit? Because whether you win or lose, you're going to be at the start line, either not having a sewage plant or moving forward finally with one. The only difference is you spent probably tens of millions of dollars to vet the argument. So those things I have to be concerned about, and I think everyone here should be concerned about that, is how much money are we going to spend sitting at the starting line as this process drags on and on and on for 40 years. There has to be a practical side to this whole thing, and I want to move forward, identify land sites elsewhere. So far no one's coming forward, but until that happens, it's really difficult to propose a solution until somebody offers up the land.
Excuse me, Carol Witter. My question is for Mr. Ducker as well. You've been quite clear that McLaughlin Point is off the table for regional sewage treatment. Will you go on the record tonight and say that Macaulay Point and Viewfield Road are off the table as well, in your opinion? That they would not be viable?
Yes, yes.
So just a reminder that we do have 14 candidates up here.
Ask the people who haven't been asked yet.
Okay, I can skip this question to anyone, but my name is Brad Rhodes. Is it correct and for our society to be put in that sort of a vice where we have a municipal discussion that we wish to defend our position against people imposing something on us we don't want, or we face the tyranny of litigation that's going to drive us into bankruptcy? Is this the sort of thing that I will open it to any member here?
If you could name someone, please.
How about lady at the back? Your name is Susan. Thank you. I'll address it to you. Do you think it's appropriate that a society should be squeezed and in a vice between economic and or environmental decisions or the fear of litigation and thereby being bullied into making a decision against their will, against their business.
I would invite you please to hold your applause.
I don't think that it's fair that we should be put into between a rock and a hard place of choose economic versus environmental. And I think that the fact we're there is the sign that we've been a victim of a very flawed process in getting us to this point at the CRD. The paper trail is there through the RFP process, through the evaluations of proposals. The CRD has chosen to move us towards a secondary treatment system, which is utterly inappropriate for our context. Had they properly consulted and had they kept an open mind to alternative technologies and alternative sites, we would not be where we are today. We would probably have a tertiary decentralized system under construction. Does that answer?
Yes, I feel that we need people in council and in government to stand up to this form of tyranny from our judicial processes.
Hi, my name is Susan Gage. A number of people have mentioned the idea of food security and us being able to buy local and gardens and everything. So I'm going to put this question to Mark Salter. How would you, if elected, promote more growing and more choice for us as consumers to be able to buy locally produced produce?
Thank you for the question. Promoting food security is something I've been pledged to for the last 8 years in this town. We've seen evidence of the food security that comes with the Rainbow Kitchen gardens that were brought here from Vic West. Going forward, allowances for urban farming initiatives for families to grow and provide sustainability on their own properties. That's one aspect. Another aspect is having a place to market that produce. So having developed a market garden process in Esquimalt, that was done once before, it can be done again. One of the other things that the township can help and support is providing more funding for workshops and training on composting. It's been there in the past. Continue to do that would be helpful. Things that are going on here at the Rainbow Kitchen with communal composting for their processes are something that everyone can benefit, especially if you're a gardener and an urban farmer. These are things you need, and working with the township to supply those things would be helpful. As far as integrating more, teaching is a thing we learned over the last few years with the Community Garden Society. We have a lack of knowledge in the community. We need to find ways to teach people. We have a secondary property on Colville that has the potential to become a very progressive learning institute, an academy of urban farming. It has very good support from the neighbors of the Gorgeville Golf Course and the Ukrainian Church, and members of the township's Parks Committee, management system are very supportive. We need to develop more capacity within our region and our township to learn about farming and how to grow your food, preserve it, and share it through community gardens and markets. These are things I'll work towards as a councillor, as I have done in the past. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric. This question is for Mayor Desjardins. Mayor Desjardins, we've heard some people say how they haven't been involved in the process. We don't know what they would do. We possibly could face lawsuits over the sewage plant, and that we need to investigate things to start moving forward. Could you please tell us how you have moved forward on this situation?
Thank you. The impasse at CRD is broken. We have continued to move forward. The West Side communities have been working together over the last 3 months and have come up now with a select committee under the CRD. This allows us to maintain the funding promises from the federal government and the provincial government. We have been assured that that money is still there. And this process is going to roll out to you very quickly. It's all about starting from the grassroots and finding out what is it that you need to allow a sewage treatment plant in your community. So it's getting your input, in the very same way as we just completed our economic development strategy. It started with you. And so you're going to build that, you're going to give us the information. From there, it goes to a technical body and we figure out what is the technology that meets these needs. And through that, what are the sites that are the best sites for this to happen? It's not about picking a site first. That's where CRD made the mistake. You can't squeeze the wrong thing into a site. You've got to, in order to be able to take advantage of the waste resource, the water reclamation, you have to site something where there is going to be a market for that. So for example, I'll give you the best example of a place where you could put a sewage treatment plant perfectly, and it's right out behind the Vic General Hospital. There are greenhouses behind there that could use the water. There are agricultural fields that can use the water, 2 golf courses that can use the water, and the hospital can use the energy as well as the new development out there. So we need to look at where is the right place to get the benefit, and that's the place to start. You're all going to be included real soon.
Victoria Vumerovich again. I'm a very inclusive person to my own detriment sometimes. So Scott, I'm sorry I don't know your last name. I got here late. Could you please reply to my concern regarding the deer?
Could you restate your concern, please? Could you restate the question for him?
What is your proposal for how to deal with the deer crisis?
Thank you.
Hello again. Deer crisis. Well, I guess we could stop planting flowers in the middle of our roads. You know, they eat everything. They like everything. I used to have a home out in Kareem Place, and they ate everything I put out there, even the stuff that was supposed to be resistant to deer. So I guess the problem and main concern is that the deer are going to get in front of cars and cause accidents, and people are going to get hurt. And the best way to solve that isn't to kill them all. They have a right to live like anybody else or anything else. That's my Buddhist training. So what you do is you just plant food out where they would eat it. All the flowers, just put them out of the city, but don't put them in the middle of the road, because if you put a buffet in the middle of the road, you'd end up with a bunch of hungry people sitting there too, and then they get hit by cars, right? You have to have compassion for the animals and get them off and out of the road.
That brings us up to panhandling, yeah? Is that an environmental issue?
Next question, please.
Hi, Gail Snyder, and my question is for Brenda O'Connor. Brenda, you were the only person I listened to tonight that mentioned anything about social housing or considering the cost of living, which Victoria Vital Signs' recent report was identified as the biggest problem right now in this amalgamation of municipalities. I use the word amalgamation intentionally. But I think that I would like to know, Brenda, what other initiatives you could see happening in Esquimalt that would encourage individual homeowners to address some of these challenges of rainwater recovery. We've all talked about solar not being necessarily the best return on investment. Garden suites is an alternative for increasing density. Just some ways that as individuals we could address some of the challenges associated with making Esquimalt a livable community by improving initiatives for individual homeowners.
Thank you for your question. In regards to social housing, I don't purport to have all the answers or even all the ideas. My suggestion is that we bring it up as an issue and get some ideas going and get some discussion going on this so that we can help to mitigate this issue. I also support some of the initiatives that have already been started about legalizing secondary suites and continuing with that to try to encourage homeowners who still haven't legalized their suite in essence to sign on board so we can ensure that those secondary suites or boarding houses, what have you, are safe for the residents who are going to be using them. And with every other issue, it's also about education. So simply letting the public know this issue exists, letting the public know the true cost of living and the true monies that certain people have and don't have, such as a senior living off of Canada Pension and Old Age Security or someone on social assistance. Their total monthly income is barely what it costs, and in most cases well below what it costs to rent a bachelor's suite anywhere here. So getting that out there so that people know and supporting initiatives that come from the community that would help with this. Unfortunately, I don't have all those ideas, but I would love to support your ideas.
My name is Mike Hill. A question for Mark Salter. Mark, if you're elected, what would your 2 top priorities be on the environmental front?
Thanks for the question, Mike. 2 top priorities that I mentioned earlier. The home heating oil tank issue is a tanker problem in the ground we don't know about. We have records that township owns that are out of date and unaudited. We need to address those issues. Any one day tomorrow, we could have an oil spill in the gorge and we will lose an entire fish run on the coho this year. This is a very real danger. It exists. We've had leaks before in Sandwich. That's a priority for me. Find a way to identify where they are, find ways to inert them, make them harmless, and prioritize them based on watershed issues. After that, environmental concerns that the township should be addressing. Talk a little bit about urban farming, but we need to address better use of the pesticide use reduction bylaw. We need to spread more words about that, share that better with our neighbors around us. We have to work with Saanich and View Royal and Victoria to make sure we have consistency amongst our bylaws regarding pesticide use reduction. We have some inconsistency still. That's an important priority. And just one little note that we need to address is harmonizing the urban hen bylaws amongst our neighbors as well. If you want to move to Esquimalt and bring your family of birds with you, you can only bring 4. Every other municipality has laws for 5 or more. So we need to bring some harmony there too. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Rachel Moore, and my question is for Councillor candidate Tim Morrison. This question is just about directed towards you because you did mention about traveling in 75 countries in the world. And I know with the traveling that I've done, a community market is very important for the health of any community. So my question is just if there are if you know of any plans or what your stance is about a community farmers market, because I know we did have one in the past, but with my inquiries it seemed like it had failed. So whether you have any plans, for a success in the future for it.
Thank you very much for the question. Mayor Desjardins and my council colleagues know me very well. They know that I always have something to say at council meetings, so it's been a very therapeutic exercise for me tonight. Restrained, not being able to speak until the last part of this meeting, but thank you for the question. That's an excellent question because one of the things I went through and I encountered from my world travels coming back was the reverse culture shock of not being able to walk into a market, an outdoor market, and just buy different things from different mom and pops. They're literally mom and pops, fresh from their crops and whatnot. And it's so exciting about tying that idea that you can ask about with social media, because on Facebook, just recently, the past month, one of our residents in Esquimalt decided to set up a Facebook page saying, can we have a market, an outdoor market somewhere in Esquimalt? And within a matter of hours, people were joining that page saying, thumbs up, yes, and I have ideas too of the location and what kind of products we could have. And I think already, if you were to go to that page, if you were someone in that market potentially, you could see what it is that the consumers want in this town locally, what they're willing to pay for on a very regular basis. So through social media and certainly through the support of council, we do have local grant money. We are about to go through our official community plan review, which we're required to do legally every few years. And part of that official community plan can have a site for an outdoor market or a farmer's market or anything of that regard. So the question, and social media, and a willing council, and a review of our OCP will get us there. Thank you.
We have time for 2 more questions.
My name is Nancy Nigro, and just on the community market thing, we did have a community market, I remember, and it didn't really fly. And it was disappointing, so I mean, it would be wonderful if we could have something like that would really take off. My question is to you, Barb, do you feel like there's anything you can do to clean up parts of the Esquimalt Road that would be done in a positive, environmental way? I just feel like there's so many places on the road that feel like there's so much.
Is that an environmental?
Well, it's kind of environmental, sort of.
Stop. I want to ask this question.
So are you asking a question?
Well, I'm asking a question, is there things that can be done about the park, that can be done on a Esquimalt Road that would be positive to the environment?
Are there things that can be done on Esquimalt Road
Certain parts
that
of
are
Esquimalt.
positive to the environment? That's your question, Mark.
Well, let me speak to what is being done and how it's developing and growing, and that is Best Blooming Beautiful contest. And that contest was started a couple of years ago to help not only property owners, but businesses take more pride in their garden, in their frontage, in their curb appeal. First year we felt was quite successful. I can't even remember, it wasn't a very large amount of people, but my goodness, what a wonderful thing they did. Last year, even better, but we still haven't got the businesses. So I talked to many of the winners, and they're all willing to do a little bit of guerrilla gardening up along the Esquimalt Road if that's what's necessary. So this year when we go out for Best Blooming Beautiful, I'm going to be, if elected, I will take that idea to the businesses along the road. And if they so choose, I know exactly where to find the gardeners that will help. And that will create much better curb appeal. So stay tuned. It's going to happen this year again, that contest. And please keep signing up for it. It looks fabulous.
I think we need to extend this a little bit. We need to extend this one.
We have room for one more question, and
Who decide one more question?
Oh, let her.
the time. Thank you, the time. So we have room for one more question, and folks, I'm in a position where I'm not actually sure what to do. We've had someone who's asked a few questions and someone who hasn't asked a
I'm
question
first
yet.
going to give somebody else another chance.
Thank you very much.
I think we need to have an extension.
Sorry, the forum goes till 9 o'clock. Thank you.
It'll be really quick. I guess I'll direct it to Tim. In regards to stormwater and our aged infrastructure, will Esquimalt be implementing a stormwater utility and incentive program like Victoria's planning?
That's an excellent question, and I think it also it's in regards to what is every municipality's responsibility in the overall strategy for sewage treatment. And it's sad that, as I said in my opening remarks, that the CRD was so willing to go with very old technology, and that to allow other communities such as Oak Bay to get away with not upgrading their storm drainage systems that are very antiquated and actually are a cause for why we have to spend so much money on sewage treatment. If we were to take just a fraction of that cost and strategically spend it on upgrading our storm drainage system, then the cost of overall sewage treatment would actually go down dramatically. And it would allow for those smaller plants. They could have the tertiary treatment. They could have the resource recovery right there locally in distributed models of sewage treatment. So it's a no-brainer. It's a common sense solution. It's something that Esquimalt has actually been one of the original drivers on with our I&I, inflow infiltration strategy. And I'm glad to hear that Victoria's moving in that direction. It'd be nice if Oak Bay would take that responsibility as well. But it's something we have to do as a region. Stop fighting against each other about where we're going to put a sewage plant and look at the overall, the very, very important steps that have to be taken in order to get us to a better model for sewage treatment. And that's certainly one of them. So thank you, Tina, for the question.
Thank you. It's not 9 o'clock yet, but still everyone wants to go.
So we
My question is now to the mayor. I live on a piece of street where there are only 3 tax-paying houses. That piece of street is dirty because it's not cleaned. The pavement is very bad because it's not cared for, even although the rest of the street has been paved since I've been here in Esquimalt. That's almost 20 years. The curbs are sunk into the ground, but they are there. We don't get any street cleaning because there are no curbs, and it's very difficult. That's not quite true. We do get some occasional street cleaning. We always have to call up to get the street cleaned. I am most dissatisfied that I paid taxes for all this long time, and my environment is not properly cared for. I would like to know what you will do about it. This has been brought to your attention on a number of occasions.
I have a suggestion, hire dirty gypsies to sweep the street.
Thank you, Mrs. Saunderson. And it was brought to my attention, and actually I received an email today that will be helpful in terms of understanding. We do have a street cleaning schedule, and I unfortunately didn't look at it to find out what yours was, but it is on a regular basis, and I will respond to you on that one. The other part is in terms of your street maintenance and repair. We have just completed a strategy looking at how do we go about repairing. We have old infrastructure. Your street is one of them. And so we need to look at how we're moving forward, replacing infrastructure, and what is a priority, what is in a timely manner, and what is needed. And I always invite you to come and speak to us, to staff, and we'll do the best we can. And I will respond to you about the information that I received tonight on that. I did receive that your street is not on the schedule within the next 5 to 10 years for paving.
After a 20-year wait, that's not very good.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for